So I was at a low point. It was summer Philadelphia, 1979. I had just graduated, or I just finished my senior year, and all my friends had graduated, but I hadn't graduated because I had more credits to do, and I had to do this bullshit independent study, and it's not going well, and I'm procrastinating. And one thing that I did instead of working was I would sit on this bench besides the statue of Benjamin Franklin, which is right in the center of campus, and I would read what I thought were these really cool books. And I would hold the book up like this so people would see me and they'd think, wow, look at that really cool guy reading that cool book. And my ultimate fantasy would be I'd be doing that and I'd hear, what are you reading? And I'd look up and there'd be this beautiful woman, and who knows where that would lead. So one day I'm sitting on the bench reading, and I'm reading this book called Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon, which was this iconic counterculture 800-page novel which the New York Times described as bone-crushingly dense. So I'm reading this book, and all of a sudden I hear, what are you reading? And I look up, and it's this Japanese woman about my age looking at me with this look of total fascination. And I say, it's Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. And she says, oh, what's it about? And I didn't know what it was fucking about. So I looked at the back cover and I read this little blurb that said, oh, it's an immense synthesis of modern literature and modern science. And she said, oh, that sounds really interesting. And then she said, do you ever feel lost, like you have no direction in your life? And I said, yeah, I guess. And she tells me that her name is Mashiko, and she grew up in Japan, and when she was in high school, she felt lost, and she felt like she had no direction in her life. But then she met these people that just turned her life around, and that she was reborn. So let me just stop and step back for a minute and just say that I may have been an idiot, but I wasn't stupid. And I knew that there was a certain religious cult that was trolling the campus, harvesting depressed college students, and I was being recruited. But I was bored, I didn't have anything to do, and she seemed nice, and I didn't tell her to get lost. So we talked some more, and she told me how she would walk around West Philadelphia late at night, talking to people, and I said, well, isn't that dangerous? And she says, oh, well, God will take care of me. So finally, she's about to leave, and she asked me two questions. First, she says, would you like to come to our group's house for dinner? And I say no. And then she asks if I can give her my phone number and address. And I sort of had this outer body experience where I see myself giving her my phone number and address. And she leaves. And then I have this sort of harsh realization that, these people have these built-in loser detectors, and they can sense the self-loathing and the despair. They can sniff that whiff of failure. And that's me. I'm the low-hanging fruit. So over the next couple weeks, she's pursuing me. I'm getting phone calls. She writes me a letter at some point. I hear her sort of running after me every now and then, and it's always the same thing. She's inviting me to their house, and she always says the same thing. Oh, Lynn, it will make you very happy. It will make me very happy. And I started to waver a little bit. It was kind of like this battle between my head and my heart. Intellectually, I knew what was going on, but it would be so nice to go somewhere where everybody was friendly, and maybe I'd meet some people and get this home-cooked meal, and how bad could it be? So eventually I decided, okay, I'll go. So the night comes and I'm walking to their house. It's about 5 or 6 blocks away. And you got to remember, this is the 70s, and in the 70s, cults were no joke. I mean, you had Jonestown, you had Patty Hearst and the Sudanese Liberation Army, and it's not a stretch to associate cults with lots of dead bodies. So I get there, and the porch is well lit. I walk in, and there's all these people there about my age, and everybody's like super nice. Everybody's really happy to see me. Mashiko's there, she's really happy to see me. And we sit around in a circle, and there's a bunch of other students there, and each mark, I'm one of the marks, is sort of accompanied by this opposite sex handler who's sitting right next to them. And of course, in this particular case, they were all the marks were male. Big surprise. So we go around the circle, and we have to say our name and what our favorite drink is. So they get to me, and I say, my name is Len, and my favorite drink is, I don't know, tea. And they go, oh, tea is so great, tea is fantastic. And someone says, well, what kind of tea? Is it oolong or ginseng? And I go, I don't know, Lipton? And they go, oh, Lipton, we love Lipton, it's fantastic, it's great. So it kind of goes along like this, and then someone takes out a guitar and they start singing these songs, and they're not these weird cult songs. They're like Michael rode the boat ashore, If I Had a Hammer, stuff like that. So I'm feeling pretty good about this, and meanwhile I can smell from the kitchen these wonderful smells of this vegetable stew or whatever it is they're making, and I was on this diet of pizza and cheesesteaks, and I really wanted a really delicious home cooked meal, so I was really looking forward to that. So then this guy comes out. He's older than everybody else, and he's referred to as the minister. And apparently he's sort of the leader of this house. And he's like in his 40s, and he has these kind of thick glasses and kind of this fake smile, a little creepy. And he says, well, before we have our nourishment, we're going to go upstairs and have some spiritual nourishment. So I go upstairs, and there's this room that's sort of festooned with balloons and streamers. And I turn to someone and say, oh, is it somebody's birthday? And they go, no, it's a rebirth day. So we sit in these rows of chairs, and this minister guy starts lecturing us. And basically, the point of the lecture is sort of to, the fact that their ultimate leader, is some guy who lives overseas, is the Messiah. And he has a blackboard, and he's drawing all these like lines and circles and diagrams, and it's just crazy. And then he says to us, I'm going to prove to you empirically, that our leader is the Messiah. And he draws a timeline on the blackboard. And then he draws another timeline below that. And on the top timeline, it goes from the beginning of the world to Jesus. And then the bottom timeline is from Jesus to their ultimate leader. And then he draws a straight line between those two. It's like, see this. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's a lot more time that's passed between the beginning of the world and Jesus. It's like two different time periods. So how is that a one-to-one correspondence? And he goes, no, it's a straight line. See. And it was like it goes to 11. It was that kind of thing. So the dinner bell rings, and I'm all excited. And he says, wait a minute, Len. I want you to stay a little bit longer. I think you need a little bit more spiritual nourishment. And Mashiko she's been beside me the whole time. She's starting to look a little worried. And he starts going on again about all the diagrams and the timeline and all this stuff. And I finally say, I want to get back to this timeline because I don't really understand. Are you saying that the bottom timeline, or that the top timeline is on a logarithmic scale? I was an engineering major. And he looks at me, pauses a second, and then he says, you can lead some horses to water, but you can't make them drink. You have to leave immediately. And so several of them get up, and they're quite friendly about it, and they sort of escort me out, kind of like they're excising this cancerous cell. And one of them turns to me and he says, real friendly, you must be a minister of Satan. But we like that because it makes us strong. What do you say to that? It's like, well, sure, thanks. And I go out into the night, alone, hungry, no dinner for me. And as it turned out, I never sat on that bench next to Benjamin Franklin again. I did finish my independent study, but I never did finish Gravity's Rainbow. Thank you.